What's up, my Karen comrades? I hope you guys are well. What I wanted to talk about today are 5 things that I wish I would have known before I began my coding/programming journey. Number one is it doesn't matter what programming language you start off with. It doesn't matter what your first language is. So now I know some developers may argue this with me, but I would wager that it doesn't matter what language you start off with. While there are simpler languages that would be ideal for a beginner. I think about HTML. Well, that's not a programming language, but if you were to start off with JavaScript or Python, these are more simple languages. However, why I don't think it's important what language you start off with is because throughout your programming journey, you're going to have a bunch of different obstacles. I would wager throughout any educational journey where you're going to have a bunch of different obstacles that are pushed to you, and you're going to be like, what the heck, what the heck, what the heck, and not know what to do. But what's really going to push you past that hurdle and get you over it is understanding your why. So it doesn't matter what programming language you learn. What matters is what you want to make, because that's going to be the driving force while you reach these obstacles, because inevitably you're going to reach these obstacles. But if you have a strong enough why, it won't matter what gets in the way, because you have a definitive goal that you're trying to desire. And it has to be clear, not, oh, I want to make an app like Facebook or Instagram or something like that. Like, let's let go of the copycat mentality and look at what ideally you want to create, whether that's fun, whether it's practical, impractical. It doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is that you know what you want to create. So that's number one. Alrighty, going into number two, do not buy a singular course. Don't buy a one, not even single one. And the reason why I'm going to say this is because we live in one of the most interesting and amazing ages ever in the history of mankind, in which we have this amazing platform. I would say, in my opinion, one of the best learning platforms in the world, which is YouTube. No matter what you want to do, whether you want to experiment with a Raspberry Pi, learn a little bit about Java, CSS, HTML, SAS, building APIs, building robots, building an AI, all these things are available for free on YouTube. So rather than investing, because you're going to make 2 investments right off the bat if you buy a course. Now you've not only invested money, let's say anywhere between $10 to $100, but you're also investing your time. So you may be investing your time and your money into something that you're not really heavily interested in the first place. So in order to vet it out and see if it's worth investing not only your time but also your money, start off with YouTube. Start off with taking a singular course or a singular project on YouTube from beginning to end. What this is going to teach you is the resilience to push through, because again, you're going to reach a bunch of obstacles and you're going to learn a bunch that you didn't know. A lot of things that are very difficult to conceptualize that are going to frustrate you. So rather than investing the money and then potentially being frustrated and then saying, you know what, I'm not really even interested in this, or this isn't for me, now you've lost out on the capital that you have invested and the time that you've invested, because it wasn't even something that you were going to do long term. So that's why I would heavily suggest taking a YouTube course and taking it from beginning to end. The first web application and first game I ever made was on YouTube. And I did it on YouTube because I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue this particular passion. While I was interested in video games, I didn't know if I could make them. And the best way to learn if you are capable we're capable of so much more. But the best way to really understand where you're at is to go throughout the course from beginning to end on YouTube for free, investing the time, which is our most valuable resource, and seeing if it's for you. If it's not, you just use some time in learning a little bit about something else. If it is, then now you have the background knowledge that's going to help you even more when you do take a course. So that's number 2. Number 3, I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker. You learn more through your errors than you do your solutions. A big thing within programming in particular is that it's never the program or the code's fault, it's your fault. The computer is in and of itself dumb. It doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know that this is a constant variable. It doesn't know that this is an array. It doesn't know any of these things until you tell it what to do. And you're going to encounter many problems with many different error codes that you're not going to know what the hell they are. But through the process of making these mistakes, we learn so much more than if we had just plugged it in and forked the code initially. Now, I'm not saying I'm against forking of code, but fork the code, which means to copy if you're not within the lingo. But copying the code is a staple within programming to not reinvent the wheel. But you have to understand the logic behind what you're putting in the first place. What I do personally, whenever I'm forking a code and I've encountered a problem, I can't necessarily solve it, I'll look on YouTube or whatever, gather those resources and apply it to the situation that I'm in now. But I won't just copy and paste. I'll copy and paste it and then also decode it. Say, okay, well, this if statement is related to this variable, which does this, and then that'll probably manipulate that. Okay, I can see that. So even if you don't fully understand it, you're able to learn from somebody else indirectly. So you learn more from your errors than you do your successes. That's for life, that's through coding. Debugging is, I would say, 85% of being a coder, 85% of being a developer is putting something in, having it not work out, or having it affect something else in your application or game, and wondering why. So you learn more, much more through debugging, and that's going to be the vast majority of your life if you're a programmer. Number 4, explore what you're curious about. What's very important, especially as I began this journey, is to understand that it's okay to be curious about a bunch, especially if you're into technology, because it's amazing. There's so much to learn. There's so much to do. But to not get too sidetracked. I, in my first year of development, got so sidetracked with learning libraries and a bunch of different things that I didn't focus on the fundamentals. I started learning a little bit about React and Angular before I fully understood HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You have to understand the basics before you branch out. So it's important that you do explore those things. If you're curious about Angular, if you're curious about Docker, if you're curious about any of these things, it's important that you explore these things, but set aside time for it. Don't get sidetracked in all the other things that exists, because there's so much. There's so much to learn at all times. So it's very important that you say, if a developer that you like or a project that you are a fan of mentions a particular engine or language that you're curious about, just write it down and then set aside time on a later date to explore it, or later on in the day to explore it. Don't just start exploring it, because then you're going to go all over the place and not really gain a singular stack of knowledge. And that's what's going to be really important and powerful for you as a developer, is to have a powerful stack of knowledge that you're able to speak on, not these random bits of information. Now, lastly, work on projects together. Number 5, work on projects with other people. If you're developing a website, let's say, so I'm one of the clients that I have is we're developing a gaming tournament website. If you're interested in building something like a gaming tournament website, well, who do you think would be interested in this? Because as creators, as developers, we are not while we may be creating things that we enjoy, we're also creating things, ideally, that other people are going to interact with, right? We're going to create things that people are passionate about, that want to engage in our thing. Whether it's a website, we want people on the website. If we want to make a game, we want people to play the game. So it's important, as early as possible, I would wager, to get people to give you feedback. You don't have to implement that feedback immediately, but it is critically important that you get feedback from other people to understand and see different things, especially if when you get into the weeds of development, it's very hard for you to see it objectively, because you put in every painstaking line of code. You made sure that the margins were right. You made sure there was proper padding. You made sure you accounted for collision errors. There's so many different things that you are involved in that you often forget what it's like for an average person to look at it, because you're not looking at it from a Joe Schmo perspective anymore. You are officially a developer, so you start to see things in a different way. So by working with other people, not only does it make your product better, but it makes you as a potential hire, either freelance or for a company better because you've proven that you're able to work with people. Not only that, but you get the skill to be able to work with people. So those are my top 5 things I wish I would have known when I began programming. I heavily suggest that you guys follow through with this and listen to all top 5. I'm going to go through them one more time. All right, so number 1 is it doesn't matter what programming language you learn. What matters is what you want to build. Number 2 is don't buy a single course until you follow a YouTube course from beginning to end. Number 3, it's you learn more through your errors than you do your solutions. Debugging is the vast majority of coding, and if you can't learn to love that, you're not going to love programming. I hate to break it to you. Explore what you're curious about. Don't get sidetracked and learn a bunch of random things. Set aside time to explore a particular set of technologies, and ideally it's related to the stack of information that you're on. So if you're learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it would make sense to learn a little bit about SAS because it's kind of within that stack. And then lastly is to work with other people. As you begin to work with other people, you not only are better at understanding the needs of the client and communicating that needs and reflecting it within the code, but you make your product and game better. So those are the top 5 things I wish I would have known. If you gain value from this, I greatly appreciate a like and a comment. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.